Broad topics, broad minds, broad hosts, but not just for broads. This is Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall.
Hello and welcome to Broadscast. So
top of the morning.
Top of the
evening.
But I need to say something first. I had some dental work this morning, and so the whole left side of my face is numb. So I apologize in advance if I'm slurring or I can't. It's awkward.
The first sign of having a problem, Kim, is admitting it. So
I am. So I'm Kim Goldman. This is Jackie McDougall. And good morning.
Good morning. How do I do Kim Gold? You always do Jackie McDougall?
Because you could do it with like a little Jewish Yiddish.
Hi, Kim Goldman.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how to do it,
doing.
but that would
don't
be.
Don't write in. I just don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, but that would be it.
We have a really interesting show for you today. Is cuddling the new one night stand? That's the question I have for you. Or the cuddling the new sex?
Yeah, I think cuddling, or is that like the new gateway to hooking up with strangers?
Is it like I refuse to admit that I'm going on Tinder for sex, but I will cuddle up?
Right.
Hoping it would lead to something?
I don't know, but we've got two incredible people on today to talk about it and dissect it with us. And then at the end of the show, we can decide if that's something, I guess, that I would do.
Would Kim do it? That's the question of today's episode. So before we start that, let's talk about a little.
And now, broad topics.
A little broad topics
and
for your bantering
Andrew's
pleasure.
So sexy in that voiceover.
Love you some Andrew.
Yeah.
Okay, so a recent interview with Playboy.
Playboy, who doesn't do nudity anymore, right?
Well, now they're going back to nudity because apparently people aren't just reading the articles. But so a recent interview with Scarlett Johansson, she says monogamy is, quote, not natural, end quote.
Right.
She began by stating, I think the idea of marriage is very romantic. It's a beautiful idea, and the practice of it can be a very beautiful thing, but I don't think it's natural to be a monogamous person. So she and her husband recently split up.
Oh.
She was also married before that to Ryan Reynolds for a few years. So
really?
Yeah.
They were married?
Yeah, they were married. Oh. So what do you think of that?
I thought they were just cuddling.
What do you think of Scarlett's revelations?
I mean, monogamy isn't. That's what monogamy is. Obviously, to be with one person. See, this is where I feel like I'm not making sense. The numbness is working into my brain. I think that we're animals by nature. I think that we are bred to seek more than one partner. I think women may be a little bit differently, but I don't know that monogamy is totally natural. I think we have trained ourselves to believe. I think religion dictates that it should be, but I don't know that I necessarily think that it's completely natural to only be with one person.
Right.
I don't know. Do you?
Well, it's kind of two-sided for me. So, number one, I agree that, animals by nature, many animals by nature are not monogamous creatures. And so, humans, that would make perfect sense that we are not as well. But it's the flip side. Like, why is she saying that? Like, why? Because I also think there are a lot of things that we do as humans, drive a car. We weren't exactly born to drive a car.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So we've taught ourselves.
Right. There are human behaviors and social norms and things like that we have all learned over time that weren't, before the evolution and we became what we are. It's not like that's a natural thing.
Right.
But I find it interesting that often when somebody declares this, that it's usually because they were caught or considering behaving badly.
Right. But if you believe that marriage is not, that it's not natural to be monogamous, then she wasn't really caught. She was living her life of her authentic self. So she maybe tried to conform to what you just said are societal expectations, and she's not living her truth in that. So it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Like we've all attacked, something must have gone bad. Well, not if you don't believe it, then she's being good.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's an interesting conversation because I guess my question to our listeners is, does she have a point? Or is it a cop-out? Like, did people who say, like...
I think people that say
that they excuse to do whatever the hell they want.
I think that when people get caught cheating in relationships and they have a quote-unquote sex addiction, I think that's a cop-out.
Really?
Like, yeah, when, like, what's his face? The golfer, Tiger Woods, got caught cheating on his wife, and he's like, I'm addicted to sex, and so he went into a rehab. Like... For me, that was a cop-out. Like, come on, dude.
I have to say, though, that a sex rehab must be the most boring rehab you've ever been to. Like,
well, but I think that's more of a cop-out than... Yeah, but I think that's more of a cop-out.
Sex addiction is real?
I do think sex addiction is real, but based on that particular situation, he was caught cheating on his wife, like, with one person. I don't know that it was a habitual... Like, if he was in... I was going to say brothel because I've been watching Game of Thrones a lot, but if he was out having random sex with strangers, it was constant and he couldn't, It was porn, it was all that stuff. Yes. But like getting caught cheating on your wife with one person, I don't think that in my view qualifies as a quote unquote sex addiction, but I don't know the whole story behind that. But I also just feel like I'm so tired of trying to determine whether or not somebody else's lifestyle is right or wrong. Like it's their lifestyle. Why do we care? And, I'm sure she's getting raked over the coals for that, Scarlett Johansson coming out for that comment,
Yeah. I mean, they've got a couple of kids together, I think, or one kid or two kids.
Yeah.
But, 99.9% of the stuff we do as parents is not natural either.
Right.
And she's, you're not going to walk away from them.
But you think about, we've had Wendy Miller, who is an exec over at Playboy, and she came on our show when she was talking about swingers and how healthy that is for relationships, to have open relationships, and how they talk about that's what keeps their marriage together. Because
not Wendy's marriage, just for the record, the swingers that she has on.
Oh, I didn't
programming.
Say that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that there's no I have no idea what Wendy does in her marriage.
No, but
that's not what she was
right. She came on to talk about that they have the show on Playboy Network, Swingers, Swing, whatever it's called. Sorry, Wendy. But I do think that there's some truth to that. Different folks.
Yeah, but I think it sure there's some truth. Now we're going to the whole swinger thing. But if the couple is strong, if they're strong individually and they're strong as a couple, sure.
Right.
But I think just as many, if not more, can be ruined by it because they're going into it in a different way. But anyway, where a lot of this drama doesn't happen? I think with cuddling. Although, would you rather your significant other go and have sex with another woman or cuddle her?
No, I think, and we'll have to talk about this with Jean from the Cuddle Sanctuary when she comes on later in the show. I feel like sex outside the marriage, if it's just about like fornication, that it's less of an invasion than an emotional relationship. I don't know if I'm
even a non-sexual emotional relationship.
Yeah, like I just feel like having an intimate relationship with someone outside of your relationship is far more provocative and risky and damaging than if you just went out and poked somebody.
Right.
In my opinion. Mm-hmm. But I don't know.
I've said this before, so if you've, but I think that the biggest betrayal would be if my husband went and did somebody's chores. Like I understand,
took out somebody else's garbage
to have sex, or even like human touch. But like if he took out her trash and God forbid mop the floor, I'm done. It's over. Right. Because that means
that's your deal breaker.
That's my deal breaker. Mm-hmm. So we're going to come back in just a minute with Olive Persimmon, who is now out there working the whole cuddle circuit. No, I'm just kidding. There's no cuddle circuit, but it sounded fun. We'll be right back.
Subscribe to Broadscast on iTunes.
Welcome back to Broadscast. So the last time we had Olive Persimmon on our show, we were talking about her book, Unintentionally Celibate, and she was intentionally no longer celibate. So welcome to the show, Olive.
Thank you. It's so good to be back.
So, we got the revelation last time that you were no longer, you had just started a new relationship, and, what happened there? Can we ask?
Yeah, of course. Well, that didn't work out. So course for me. It's all good. It's all good. You can read about exactly what happened in the next book. So I'm back at it again with the white vans, trying to find someone else before Valentine's.
Well, yeah, right.
Oh, that's bad.
Around Valentine's.
Exactly. Yeah. So is the second book still called The Quest for Coitus?
The title has been changed to The Coitus Chronicles, how I went from unintentionally celibate to bringing sexy back.
Oh, I like it.
Thank you. I had very little to do with it, but thank you.
Well, that's why we have other people in our lives to help us with things like that.
Yes.
So, you go from unintentionally celibate, you go from, probably more than you could handle, and then that ends.
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe it was he could handle her.
No, I didn't. I meant the sex, not the people.
Oh, yeah, exactly. He couldn't handle her.
Yes.
Yeah, there was too much boning. I was just so great at it. He was like, "Oh,
yeah, she's overwhelming me."
He couldn't handle it. So, but now you've kind of decided or to experiment. Some people experiment in certain kinky ways, but you've decided to experiment in a different way. Tell us what you're doing now.
So my most recent adventure involves cuddling. Which sounds sweet, but actually is going to get kind of weird. Yeah. So truthfully, what happened was, so that relationship ended sometime in the fall. And, winter started and you start feeling cold and lonely. And I was just lying in my bed one night and I was like, really just needed to feel human touch. I was like truly that lonely. So I got on a website for Platonic cuddling. And I was like, this will be great. I can write about it. That was like my excuse, right? Like, oh, I'm going to write about it. But really, I just needed to cuddle with somebody. So I get on a website and the stipulation is like you just meet somebody and you meet up and like for however allotted amount of time, you platonically cuddle. And then you just go about your merry way and call it a day.
So it's like Tinder for cuddling.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's a cuddle. Yeah. I thought I was going to have something there. It just didn't come.
I totally. There was nothing clever.
I was like, wait, there's something here.
That happens to me. That's pretty much every day of my life. I'm like, I'm so close to some sort of joke. Yeah. So, when I went into it, I was like, is this even a thing? Can people platonically cuddle? What happens if you're attracted to that person? Are there boundaries? So these were all questions I had. And I started receiving just an outrageous amount of messages because it turns out I'm like one of 8 women in New York City actually on this site.
That's it, though, in New York City? 8?
Yeah, it's very low. So the odds were really in my favor. And I was like, okay, and I don't look like a huge weirdo, and I have decent hygiene. I have good hygiene. So the odds were really in my favor. But I started getting like a bunch of messages of people who wanted to cuddle with me. And a lot of them were like, what's your rate? What do you charge? Yeah. So what do you charge? So I found out that there are professional. So I'm actually one of, I think 4 women on the site who don't charge.
Wow.
Oh, you just increased your odds.
Yeah. So there are professional cuddlers who charge anywhere from $60 to $80 an hour. And they call it in-service or out-service, where they either you go to them or they come to you, and they'll cuddle you for an hour. So a bunch of people thought I was a professional cuddler. And so people kept asking me like, oh, what's your rate? Do you wear pajamas?
Wait. So just go back. So like, do you have to put a profile up? Like, what do you write in your profile?
I have friends.
Put a picture.
I think I wrote something. I didn't write anything at first because I was that lazy. I was like, whatever, like they can message me if they're curious. And then I ended up putting a profile up after I got all these messages that was like, just looking for platonic cuddling, not a professional, good hygiene is a must.
Wow.
That's funny. Yeah.
And I think I wrote something like, I am kind and warm. So that was like the end to try to like soften it a little.
Wow. So this is amazing to me. First of all, like, where does one get educated in the world of professional cuddling? Is there like a cuddling institute?
Cuddle University.
Yeah, there's like a course you have to go through. You have to get your master's, and then you have to get your doctorate. It's like a 6-page paper you have to write.
Olive, I will tell you, when Jackie told me that you were coming on, I told her, I said, well, there's this news story that came here in Los Angeles. It's the, what did I even call it, Jackie? It was the Cuddle Factory or Cuddle.
Yeah. We're gonna have to call them up next. I'm telling you, we're gonna get them on.
No, but I was like, wait, this is so weird. There's like a whole movement about like you go in and you like just cuddle up and you don't talk. I don't know if you talk. I don't. You just, they rub your face. I don't really know what's happening.
Wait, so let's go back to you, Olive. So tell us about the first time where, you met somebody. Where did you meet? Like, bring us through that whole experience.
I do want to say, though, I think there's a movement because I think there's something very legitimate about the need for touch. And especially in a city like New York, what happens to your brain when you're not getting a sufficient amount of touch. And I'll tell you what happened to my brain on the first time. So I'm getting all these weird messages asking me to pay me and people in all sorts of age ranges, like 65-year-old men. I had a man who was a Hasidic Jew and was married give me a call and ask if we could cuddle. But I ended up finding a guy who was like 24, good looking, seemed relatively normal from his profile. He wrote something like, "I love to listen." And I was like, okay, whatever. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this. So we decided to meet up. I decided to meet him on a street corner because I'm a hyper paranoid person. That sounds really weird, right? Like meet me on the street corner.
Hilarious.
But I was just like, okay, if he's going to try to kill me, like I need to be in public and I need to be able to make a fast getaway. So we decided to go for a walk. Luckily, the weather was nice that day. We go for a walk. And so we're walking around. And I'd say after about an hour, I decide he's not crazy. And he was very good at communicating. He was like, "What are your fears?" And I was like, "Well, that you're going to kill me or rape me." And he was like, "Yes, those are legitimate fears." And he was like, "Here's my driver's license if you want to see it. And you know where I work." And I was like, "Okay, sure." So we're walking around and then I start trying to like flirt with him because I'm like, oh, he's so handsome and he like smells nice. And then I'm trying to flirt with him. And he very quickly puts the kibosh on that. And he was like, "Oh, you don't have to try to impress me. We're not dating. That's not what this is. Like, this isn't a date." Oh. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So that took kind of the pressure off of like being impressive. So then I just started being like my real self and we're being goofy and we're laughing. And I was like,
I love that you're saying that your real self is different than the person that you were when you were trying to flirt with him. Like, that just became me.
That's all of us.
Did not work. Yeah.
Like you let your pants down a little, you start itching your crotch, like you don't care as much because you're just like, whatever, like, I think yeah.
The person that comes out 3 months after you've started dating someone, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we sit there and I was like, you know what? Let's do this. But if we're doing this, we're going to do this at my house because my roommates are home. And, in case you try to kill me, they can hear me scream. Like, just in case, got to be cautious. So he's like, oh, that's weird. Like, I've never done this at anybody else's house. And when your roommates are home, he's like, okay, so we have a 40-minute kind of awkward subway train ride back to my house, which I thought was cool that he did that because it was pretty far for him. And we get home and we walk in and my roommates are sitting there. And I was like, hey, guys, this is, we'll call him Jacob. I was like, hey, this is Jacob. We're going to cuddle. And they were like, okay. And then he starts trying to like talk to them. And he was like, I was like, why are you trying to talk to them? I thought we weren't doing this. Like we were just cuddling. So he's like talking to them. And he was like, oh yeah, are you guys musicians? And like, oh, what are you guys? And I was like, okay, why don't we go cuddle? So I kind of like pull him into the room. And I was like, how does this work? And he's like, well, we just cuddle. And I'm like, okay. So we lay down in my bed on top of the comforter. And we kind of cuddle. And then he's like, oh, do you care if I take my shirt off? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that sounds nice. So I can be next to your skin. And then, so we're doing that. And then I made the mistake of doing something where I was like, oh, hey, can I take my shirt off? Because it'd be nice to feel like our body heat. And then, so that happened.
Wait, why was that a mistake? Tell us why that was a mistake.
That was a mistake because, okay, so let me preface this by saying he and I have successfully platonically cuddled. And we have also failed to platonically cuddle.
Oh.
So on multiple occasions, we have just cuddled. And on multiple occasions, we have not just cuddled. On this particular time, that was a mistake because in the beginning, it's nice because it's like, it's meditative. It's like, okay, my body is next to yours. There's a lot of good chemicals being released in my brain. I feel calm. I feel relaxed. And then when you take your shirt off, my skin was next to his, your heart rate starts to increase and those chemicals in your brain start to change a little.
Right.
Yeah. And it's no longer meditative. It's like, oh, okay, there's like a good looking man. And it's like, you start getting a little aroused. And so it becomes a little less platonic.
So the very first time you had this cuddle session, did it remain platonic?
No, I messed it up.
Well, I think there were two of you.
Yeah.
No, the truth is it was me because, and I'm not just saying this, I believe putting responsibility where it lies because he is so good about respecting my boundaries. So anytime I say like, look, we are just cuddling or this and that, he respects that. So it was really me who kind of pushed the boundary the first time around. I was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. We didn't kiss at all though. That should be said. So we didn't kiss at all the first time. This is just sounding so bizarre. Like
No, I'm fascinated.
I don't think I've ever leaned further into an interview in my life.
We didn't kiss, but it was like so arousing because it was like my face is close to your face and I'm like nuzzling my face in your beard and we're almost kissing, but we're not quite kissing. And like, oh, my chest is next to yours and we're like almost touching, but we're not quite fooling around, but we're fooling around enough that it's like not platonic. And yeah, so that's what happened the first time.
You're so funny. You're like, yeah, that's what happened.
So have there been other cuddlers since in between and since him?
Besides Jacob?
No. So Jacob and I, so let me say, then the second time I was like, we can't do this. Like, I don't want a friend with benefits. You're not becoming my friend with benefits. We're just going to cuddle.
That was you or him?
That was me.
Okay.
So second time he comes over and I was like, if I wanted a friend with benefits, like I would have found someone who lived closer. So I'm just kidding. Well, I'm kind of kidding. Yeah. So he's like, okay. So he comes over the second time and he comes over, he takes off his shirt. That's it. I keep my shirt on and we just cuddle. I set a timer for 45 minutes and we hold each other and he like strokes my hair and I rub his beard and I like nuzzle his neck. And then 45 minutes, the timer goes off and he leaves. And that happened too. So the question is, have I cuddled with anyone else? I haven't because it's been... I feel like the vetting process is a lot of work, like making sure someone's not going to kill you. And I just haven't had the time. So like I have Jacob and we're having like kind of this nice thing.
Are you at this point, tell us, fess up, are you dating Jacob now?
No.
You guys text each other and like talk to each other in between cuddle?
No. No, so we're doing this very bizarre, we're not dating, but we're not totally platonic thing. We're like, so I go over to his place to cuddle for the first time last week. And he was like, hey, I'm moving close to where you work. Like you could bring a bag if you wanted to stay over. And I was like, what are we doing here? Are we like accident? Except we've never been on a date. Like we've never actually had a conversation in a place that was like well lit in like the middle of the day. So, yeah, it's very bizarre. My life is
Do you know his last
weird.
name?
Yes, I know his last name, but I'm not sure he knows mine.
Oh. That's great, because we have Jacob here. Welcome to the show. No, I'm just kidding. So do you feel, what's the percentage? Yeah, right. What's the percentage that you actually cuddle when you see him versus not?
What do you mean? Like that it's platonic versus not platonic?
Yeah, yes.
I would say, It's not platonic 70% of the time, and it's platonic 30% of the time.
That's
okay. So
like
let me just go back to a second. So it started out with this great intention of just sharing body space and body heat with someone that there's no strings attached. It sounds like. Do you feel like something's changed? Do you feel like this is something that actually can happen, or do you think that it's like I don't think I would ever be able to do that because I just get attached, regardless of what the situation is. That's my human makeup I get attached to people. So the concept of just cuddling, do you think it's possible, or does it happen like what happened to you?
I think it is totally possible to platonically cuddle with somebody. I do think you have to have clear boundaries, and he and I don't think really had that and kind of crossed some of those boundaries. So I'm finding myself in a weird situation where I sent him a text the other day and I was like, I'm craving you. And I actually do find myself kind of craving him. But I'm also kind of afraid to go on a date because I'm like, what if I don't actually like you as a person? Then I lose this like really great situation we have where we kind of cuddle and like kiss. And so.
Well, do you talk when he's over?
Yeah. We chat all the time.
So, I mean, it seems like you're getting to know him in a way. I mean, first of all, like, let's be honest. If my husband came home from work today and I was like, here's the deal, babe. We're going to cuddle. This is what we're going to do. Platonic, like, we're just going to be into, like, that's the hottest thing ever. When you can't. You know what I mean? It's like, I could be like, oh, I'm tired. And then my husband's like, that's okay. I don't want to do it anyway. I'm like, okay, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, so the very idea of not being able to go there is the one thing that makes you want to go there.
But that's not what's happening. I mean, this is just, and I'm not diminishing what this is, because I think as someone who appreciates just being in someone else's space, it feels like there are so many loose boundaries like there are with any kind of dating site. Like there's no restrictions. I mean, there's not like a buzzer that goes off, if it's like, button. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it sounds like people have to be in a really good headspace, and like you're saying, Olive, like you have to have really good boundaries and be willing to work within them or outside of them. I mean,
yeah, definitely. So I think if I do it with somebody else, I'm gonna have to be like, okay, we're setting an alarm for an hour. After an hour, like everybody has to be fully clothed. With my first one, Jacob, I didn't do that, and like I said, now we're in kind of an interesting space where it's not fully platonic and it's not fully not platonic, and it's. Right. I don't know how to navigate it is like the truth. Like I've never been in this kind of situation before, but like to say like I don't like kissing him is a lie. To say I want to date him isn't really true. To say I don't want to date him isn't true. So I'm trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what the hell we're doing.
Well, I can't remember how old you are, but can you remind me?
Yeah, I'm 30.
Okay. So do you think that like there are so many ways to experiment with dating and meeting people that this is just another way to actually just meet people that are kind of open for something, but you're not really sure? Like, is this just another avenue to dating, or is it really because we're so lonely as a society? I mean, like, what do you think that? I know I'm getting all philosophical, but I'm fascinated. I don't know, because I think that, it's such a strange time. I mean, I'm 15 years older than you, and in terms of dating, and I joke that my dad used to say, well, to go to the sock hop, that's where the ice cream social, that's where you meet people, the grocery store. But now it's like we could just meet someone for 40 minutes and lay in each other's space, and then you're done. Like, is that a form of lack of commitment, or like, I don't know. I just think there's something bigger here than how many times you've laid, philosophically with Jacob. I don't know.
No, I think you're totally right. So when I first started, it was kind of an experiment. Like, is platonic cuddling even a thing? And I was like, or are these people just trying to sleep with me? Like they're trying to get easy access to your bed under an excuse of like, hey, we're cuddling. Right? Smart. You skip a bunch of steps right there. And maybe this is naive of me, but I really think that, and there are professional cuddlers, I really think that something really nice happens to your brain when you're touching someone else. And I think, I don't think it makes sense as a dating site, because like I said, I'm one of like, there's not enough women on there if that's what you're looking for. So like, if that's your dating strategy, it's not a smart dating strategy.
Right. Well, it would be for a woman though. You get more options.
I don't know that I've had like the best, like Jacob's one of the best options.
Right. So how would you feel if you found out Jacob was cuddling others?
Oh, we talk about it because he was actually like, oh, you should cuddle other people. He knows that I'm doing this as research for my book, or he knows that's how it started out. We had a very candid conversation about that. And he actually, the last time I saw him, he was like, oh, if you want to write like a good chapter article, like you should cuddle with other people because they're not all going to be like me, and you should have different experiences. And I said to him, I was like, oh, like, what do you do with this with your other cuddle buddies? Like, do your other cuddle buddies stay over? And he said that he doesn't have any other cuddle buddies right now. So I don't know. It's so funny because I don't know. Is this like, are we having the dating chat? Like, this is what you would say if you were dating someone, right? Like, oh, are you seeing other people? Except for us, it's like, he's like, oh, I'm not cuddling anyone else right now. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, Wow. Well, will you please keep us up to date with your cuddling and coital chronicles? I would love to. I love hanging out with you guys. I would love to come on the show whenever you'll have me.
Yes, I mean,
I just keep us up to date if there's new. Like, I'm so not hip. Not that I mean, this is fascinating. This I would never be able to do. I'm so proud of you, Olive, for your experimental side. But I'm fascinated, like all the different ways to meet and to experiment with different parts of us. I think I'm intrigued by that. So make sure you let us know when there's more things popping up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep you guys posted for sure.
Is there a public place that people can follow you as well and kind of stay up to date with all of your crazy antics?
Yeah, you can find me at olivepersimmon.com, and that has links to my Facebook, that has links to my Instagram, and also we have a new Facebook live show on Spoiled Media called That Feeling When. So if people want to hear us talk about us being my partner Ruwan and I talk about all these dating and sexy things on our show.
Love it.
Awesome.
We'll definitely link to all of that on our site as well. Olive Persimmon, as always, you're a joy.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks so much for coming.
All right, bye.
We'll be right back with more Broadscast.
Connect with the Broads on Facebook at facebook.com/broadscast.
Welcome back to Broadscast. Kim is having trouble over there with her
my God.
post-dental work.
So
today.
I'm numb, but I feel like I need to sneeze, but I can't entirely tell if I feel it. I'm not sure what's happening.
Your nose and your mouth don't even know what's happening right now. So moving on with our cuddling conversation. This is I am loving the show so very much. It's awesome. So Jean Franzblau is from the Cuddle Sanctuary. Jean, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Thank you so much. Such an honor to be here.
Well, thank you. So tell us, first of all, like, what is the Cuddle Sanctuary?
Yeah, so we are the Los Angeles resource for group cuddle workshops and professional cuddling, and also training for professionals who want to get into the field.
Okay. Is this a new field? Like, I mean, it seems like all of a sudden, cuddling is like the new sex. I mean, how long has this been? How long have you been affiliated with this, and how long has the company existed?
All right. The company's been around for a little over 2 years. I was doing group workshops in private residences, but I consider it becoming real once I started to have public venues and offering it to the public. So we're 2 years old. And I would say the movement has been going on for over 10 years. Reed Mihalko and Marcia Basinski started Cuddle Party, those group cuddle workshops. They're the founding father and mother of this movement. And it moved from group cuddle workshops, which are still happening around the world, to professional cuddling, which are these one-on-one sessions that you've been talking about.
So is it really like the essence of cuddling, or is it like the human touch, like just being in somebody else's skin? Like, is it like massage, or is it just being right next to each other, sort of? Right?
Yeah, you make a great point. It's similar to massage. In fact, we call our practice the Affection Spa. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Similar to a massage because it is a 60-minute session in most cases. There's a professional and there's a client. Somebody's paying, somebody's receiving services. So there's and also it includes touch. There's a lot in common with massage there. The difference is I guess, the heart of it. There's affection, there's kindness, there's kind words. There's heart opening. There's a potential for healing for people who are recovering from trauma around touch, for people who are starved and feeling just isolated from touch for a variety of reasons in Los Angeles and beyond. So when you ask the question, like, is it cuddling? I think what you're sort of asking, is it spooning? That's the one thing people think of. And actually, we have tons of cuddle positions, including what I call companioning, which simply means sitting side by side like you would on a bench. So cuddling can be something as simple as looking into somebody's eyes. So I sort of expand the phrase of what cuddling is, or sort of the definition. So basically, it's about intimacy and connection, and can include spooning, but many, many other things as well.
Okay, so I don't laugh at me, but I have been obsessed with Game of Thrones in the last. I know, but I'm going to make my connection. So I've been binging it. I am in season. I just finished whatever season it was. And this particular season, a lot of the characters they were castrated as young boys, and so they've lived an entire life without basic touch, basically, because they don't have the feeling that is attached with their male body parts. Anyway, in the last episode, one of the soldiers went to a brothel and laid with a woman, and she sang to him and touched his head and touched his face, and it was really so beautiful. And so I'm making the connection because I think there is something to be said about the healing process and the need that we have to just have that human touch and not have it be sexual. So that was my long way of connecting it. But I mean, do you see that's why people come?
Yes, everything about that scene in the Game of Thrones, it makes total sense to me. First of all, men in particular are separated from non-sexual touch. They're vilified for only wanting one thing, and therefore, pretty much since at a young age, it's like, don't touch each other, don't touch anybody. The only people that most men can touch is their lover, partner, spouse, and or very young children. And at a certain point, they can't even touch their kid anymore. So if you can imagine how isolating it is to be a man in our culture, that's why many men are seeking professional cuddling. They know they could go to a sex worker. That is an option, but plenty of them are seeking professional cuddlers, along with women as well. But right now we're talking about men.
Huh. That's fascinating.
Is there a desire for education about it, or like learning how to be intimate with someone? Is that part of your?
Absolutely. So first of all, there was such a deep confusion for people about the kind of touch that's sort of allowed. Where we live in this hyper-sexualized culture and yet sexually dysfunctional, right? And so being touch deprived isn't something people talk about. They say, I'm hungry, I could use some fresh air, I would like some healthy food, but there's not much talk about I could use a hug. And I can, at Cuddle Sanctuary, I coined the phrase ODO, optimum daily oxytocin, because oxytocin is what many scientists call the hug hormone, or the cuddle chemical. It's what gets released when we get soothing touch. It's what moms release when they breastfeed. It's what people release when they make love. And it's also just but human bodies release when they just get a nice long hug. And it feels good. It creates compassion. It can create heart opening. It creates a sense of calm. It has health benefits that people who are touch deprived are missing. Do you want to hear what they are?
Yes. Okay.
So the health benefits of soothing touch include lower cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone. So that means stress relief.
Okay.
A deeper night's sleep, so people sleep better when they're getting enough touch. Also, a boost in cardiovascular health. It lowers cardiovascular disease. And finally, it boosts your immune system. So for me, anybody who cares about their health would want to include soothing touch every day to get to me, it's a health hack. You know what I mean?
Wow. So not being... I mean, it's funny because that I'm giving this information, but sometimes I have some anxiety in life, like a lot of people. Sure. And yes, my husband, if he touches my feet, I know that's so, like, it will actually, like, I can go from 60 to 10 miles an hour.
Right.
It's unbelievable what it does. So what are parts of the body that you feel like benefit most from this cuddling?
Well, what I love about what you're saying is that you know the trigger that does it for you. Like just one stroke from a safe person, your husband, to your feet, and boom, everything calms down. It's going to be different things for different people. I was working with a client last night who said, would you please caress the sides of my body? And I've never heard this before. So I felt safe with him and comfortable with him to do that. And so I caressed the sides of his body, and everything in his body just went, It was so sweet. So I think it was sort of like the Game of Thrones image, like the caressing of the forehead.
I dated someone. It was the palm of his hand, like that.
Gorgeous.
That was his like it wasn't even erogenous. It was like
in the palm of his hand.
It was, but like that's what it was. And so whenever I could tell that like he would just kind of open his hand a little bit, and I would that was his spot. Yeah.
Wow.
And so one client, I have a client on the autistic spectrum, and when I ask a client like, what are areas of the body that are sensitive or that you don't want touched, he said, don't like scratch on the palm of my hand. I hate that. So
that's funny.
Everybody has their thing.
Oh, that's interesting.
So we, prior to you coming on, we had our guest Olive, who talked about her experience. She went on a website in New York and found a cuddle buddy, and it was a platonic cuddling situation that went awry.
It was unsuccessful.
They don't know how to do platonic cuddling because they've never learned it. They've never had a class on it. You know what I mean?
Right. So do you find that people that come to the sanctuary are struggle with that, or is there some level of sexual connection and physicality that comes beyond just the human touch part?
So first of all, every group event that we have is a boundary setting workshop where we practice setting boundaries and practice saying no thank you. Practice the ask and wait method, which means if you want to hug somebody, keep your body language neutral and ask them, then wait for them to respond because they might say no thank you, which is a welcome at our event. So this creates a lot of freedom for people to feel safe. Having said that, we always talk about arousal because it's very natural for the body to have a response. And people with penises get very worried about entering in the space because they're afraid they'll be shamed if they accidentally get an erection. So we just talk about it straight up and say, if your body's having a response, just, shift your position, shift your activity. If you're thinking about something that got sexy, just shift your thinking and, go back to the experience. So we just remove the shame from it all and teach people how they can be comfortable in their bodies in a non-sexual platonic space.
Wow. Do you have... this is fascinating. So do you have people that come to the sanctuary that are couples that are learning how to reconnect, or is it?
It does seem like it's like when it is couples, it's one who's not getting their needs met and that they're going elsewhere as opposed to someone, right?
Right.
Like the couple that goes together.
You make a great point. So I've had people come as couples because they're just like, wow, like, what would that be like for us to allow, to cuddle around other people and to find that line, which is, can we be in a platonic space? Are we allowed to hug other people? And if not, why? So it sort of brings up some interesting discussions and philosophies. But I have seen it more often than the couples coming is a part of a couple saying that I am starved for touch because my partner is touch averse. And I've had somebody say the only way that my spouse will touch me is like she's open to touching our feet can touch when we sleep at night. And that is it.
Oh,
and
no.
this guy.
That's the one thing I won't allow.
What? Touching
the feet touch.
Oh, yeah. Ugh. Sweaty feet. Yeah.
You were saying.
Sorry. I have a foot aversion. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It sounds like it. Should we take a moment with that?
No.
To decompress that?
No. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's all you. We're just silly human beings. So the other person may have touch aversion and.
Well, just think for a moment, or how many people are in sexless and affectionless marriages?
Right.
So here's the problem, and I'm just going to remove the sex from it. Are you, as a partner, allowed to say to your other partner, I am going to separate you from human touch because that is the relationship agreement we have when we got married. I'm going to separate you from the health benefits of touch because I don't want to touch you and nobody gets to touch you. As you can tell, I'm sort of emotional about it because to me, it's a human right to be held, to be comforted, to receive hugs. And so it's something that I just think is worthy of a discussion about what is a marriage and do you care about your spouse? If you can't touch your spouse, can anybody else? And if not, why?
Well, do you ever help those spouses that maybe just don't know how to do it and just help them with cuddling each other?
Great question. That would be working with spouses together would be a great service for us to add on. So I'm completely open to it. If anybody wants to go to Cuddle Sanctuary and ask for it, I'd be honored to work with a couple. What I'm noticing in some cases that we have a member of a couple who has so much sexual trauma or just touch trauma that they're not in a place where they're open to it. They're just not ready for it.
Okay, so I have two questions about hugging. So my dad is the most loving, kind, compassionate mush pot of a human being.
Oh my God.
My dad's amazing. But when he hugs you, he smacks your back like to the point that I'm like, I get whiplash. And so what is that? And then I have another question. What is that?
I think I know what it is. It's something that men do. And the smack on the back, every hit is saying, this is not sexual. This is not sexual. This is not sexual.
Really? Even to his wife?
I don't know what to say.
I don't know. I was just.
I'm thinking about the bro hug. So maybe I'm not there. I'm not watching him do it. If I saw a video of it, maybe I'd have more insight. But frankly, this is just somebody who needs to be told, Dad, I love receiving a good hug for you, and you're knocking the wind out of me. Like, can we remove the back slap, because I'm starting to dread, the
burp.
The whiplash.
Like, I feel like I need to be burping.
Well, but I know you have another question, but you make a great point though, because if he doesn't learn how, and you were talking about the people who don't know how necessarily to cuddle and to, but also the message that we send to men about affection and things like that. That like if
but my dad was raised that way, but my dad did not evolve into that. Like my dad. I mean, my dad is so loving. I mean, there isn't any part of him that is cut off from emotion. He's always been incredibly expressive, very expressive. Mm-hmm. But it's literally that hug. It's fascinating to me. He's a smacker.
What it makes me think of? There's different personality types around touch. One of my colleagues in this profession talks about the puppy. You know what I mean? Wagging their tail, ready for a hug. That's your dad. Right. And then there would be the cat. This is somebody who's more tentative, more cautious, needs more space. And then there's the bird, and this is the person, if you approach them, they'll fly away. And so at a workshop, it's good to sort of figure out where are people at in that day. And the puppy sometimes needs to be told, like, slow your roll. You're freaking people out.
Yeah, he's 76. He ain't slow in his roll. Okay, so I have another example. So a woman that I know, she is very spiritual, very earthy, yoga. She goes all over the country to learn yoga-y, whatever it's called. But when she hugs you, there's nothing there. It's completely void of any emotion.
Like the fish handshake, but in a hug.
It's so weird. And she's loving and she's warm and she's kind, but there is a complete disconnect. What about that?
Well, what I love, what you know, because you must be an intuitive hugger yourself, is that you can read a lot about a person from the way that they hug. And so just because somebody's in their body with yoga doesn't mean that they are in their body when it comes to intimacy. Huh. And I frankly, if you know her really well, one day you can ask her about it. And now, what I'm curious about, and frankly, I wouldn't say, I notice you have a dead hug. I would say,
no, what I do is I just hold on longer. It's like my own, I'm going to break you of this. I just don't let go.
Well, oh my God.
And then I start smacking her. Yeah, no.
You start smacking her back your dad. What I'm curious about is her hug her body doesn't get close to you, like she's actually tentative and her body's tense?
Yeah.
Does she go dead in your arms?
Yeah.
What is that? So I think what I would say, if you ever wanted to open the conversation, is not talk about your subjective, I notice you get dead, but to say, I notice that when we hug that your body gets tense. Is it actually that you don't like to hug? Can you tell me more about it? And then just be quiet and see what emerges from that.
Right.
That's fascinating. Huh. So you also teach people how to be professional cuddlers?
I do. We have we have two training programs. One of them is to teach people how to lead group workshops. It's an art form, how to take a group of strangers and transform them in just a couple of hours to be people who can connect and hug each other and feel like on top of the world by the end of it and be friends. It's an alchemy. It's really cool. The other training is how to be a professional cuddler, which are those one-on-one sessions. And they're both very different practices.
Wow. And then I noticed on your website that you also have a cuddling game, the cuddle game.
Yes. Cuddle game. I'm so proud of it. It's a way for people who've never cuddled before to talk, like how they can have fun with it and gamify it and actually win at cuddling. What could be better?
Wow. So, and they can get that over on your website, cuddlesanctuary.com.
Okay.
Cuddlesanctuary.com.
Before we leave, so you don't have to, you can shut me down and just like, are you single or are you in a relationship?
I was in a 2.5-year relationship that ended in December.
Okay.
So I would say I have a lover.
Right.
That's nice.
Okay.
Going nice.
That's more than me. So, but when you, is this, how do you bring this, does this like make people nervous, potential suitors?
This is a great question. First of all, I date only extraordinarily evolved human beings. So my former boyfriend not only loved the work that I was doing, but he came to cuddle workshops for his own personal growth. He like changed his work schedule so he could come. It was his own self-care practice. So these are the human beings I can date, people who are very evolved.
Oh, got it. Cool.
But, But to your question, might somebody who's less secure of themselves worry about their partner coming to a cuddle workshop? Sure. I would say, why don't you go together, figure out what your relationships agreements are and then see what it is as a team.
Have you seen people who come in single or involved with someone else kind of leave involved potentially with someone from the group?
Rarely, although people who are single are, certainly might have an eye on who might be, interesting to date or what have you. But it's really rare that somebody leaves, partnered up. There's so much. Are you familiar with that word agape?
Yeah.
There was so much agape love happening at the workshop that everyone's like gazing at each other with love. They're like, I love you, you too. It's just. It's a love fest. It's very, very sweet. And so people feel very full, even though they're not getting, a romantic hit.
Huh.
And so, I'm very fascinated with it. And I think that a lot of marriages, I've been married almost 15 years and I adore my husband and I still am interested in him romantically.
Bragger. Right.
But, I do talk to a lot of other married people who aren't necessarily having relations or, and I think that had they possibly taken that off the table and had nights that they were just going to cuddle,
yes.
That maybe the intimacy would last.
Yes, I think that people are not cuddling enough. Like there's many people who would say just every day, once you get home from work, just like spoon and breathe together for like a minute or two. And the relationship will get better just from that. That's assuming you can tolerate each other. I mean, some people have become enemies, Right. So I'm assuming you can tolerate each other and enjoy that touch.
So what are some of the like basic things? So you mentioned spooning. What are some other basic things that people could be doing?
Well, very simple for people who are partnered would be to just stand, once somebody comes in and settles down, puts their keys down or whatever, just to hold each other and just exchange what I call an LAH. And that's a long ass hug. A long ass hug, about 20 seconds or more, and just breathe with each other, just standing there. And you will notice your oxytocin levels begin to boost. Wellness comes, and then you could sort of settle. It's a beautiful transition from the workaday into sort of your home life.
And it's a great point. I mean, my husband is 6'4" and I'm 5'4", and so I find hugs with him to be extremely annoying. So I have to get on a step. Like but you have made me like today. He's gonna be so weirded out when he gets home from work. I'm gonna stand on the first step of and give him a hug.
Yeah,
because it's so different. Like I don't have to have my nose dug into his chest bone, like his sternum.
Yeah. I've always been such a hugger. I mean, like even when I meet people, sometimes people give me a vibe that I'm like, I don't want my body to touch yours, but for the most part, I'm definitely a hugger. And I always ask first, like if it's okay. But I mean, I love that. Like, I don't know.
This is a great idea is to stand on a stair. Have you ever heard of the squatty potty? Do you know what I'm talking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Happen to have one, just for my digestive health. And I have a client who's super tall. And so I said, he's looking for sort of a maternal hug. He's looking for that kind of energy. So I said, can I stand on this stool? And I stood up, and that made me a little taller than him. And he got this delicious hug from the perspective of a woman who's now bigger. And it's something that we do every session that he has.
Wow.
Wow.
Look at that.
Who knew
You-
the squatty potty would come in handy so easily?
Who knew? Who knew?
I find that fascinating. But, I don't know about anybody else listening, but, the idea of having sex every day with my husband, we've got 3 kids, we've got lives, both full-time jobs. Like, it doesn't happen every day. But I don't know that we could do this whole, like, cuddling thing without it leading to that. So,
I'm so impressed with your chemistry. That's amazing. What a quality problem.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
How much did Jeff pay you? Yeah.
no, because honestly, like, and I noticed that when we started dating, we knew each other for years, and I never really had that. He knows this. I did not have a thing for him, and then when we got together, and like, there's just something about, like, I feel like our, oh my gosh, I'm saying it on the radio, but our smells, everything about us are like, it just fits. And so I think when you go through life and you don't allow yourself to stop and take that moment to remember that.
To stop and smell your Jeff.
So then you could just kind of blow it off and be like, I'm too tired, I'm too busy, I'm too this. So I think whether you're just looking for that human touch or you're looking to rekindle, I think that, this cuddling thing, there's something here. I think you got it.
Well, I'm very honored that you featured it today, and thank you so much for giving it a look. I'm really happy about that. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank
and so
you.
People can head over to the cuddlesanctuary.com. Jean, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jean.
Bye-bye.
Have
Bye-bye.
a great day. Bye. So she's a joy.
Yeah. That's like
I feel like we learned something today. Did you learn
what?
something?
We learned something? Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I think what, once people get past the whole, oh my gosh, it's called the Cuddle Sanctuary, or, what Olive did, I think that there, she makes a point, and it's what you and I were talking about offline, that like, there's nothing better than like touching that, your kid and feeling their heartbeat, or like being in sync with someone's breathing. Like I do believe that there's something very healing and healthy about that. So
absolutely.
I'm
and
glad
it's
that
so
that was brought up.
different, in a romantic relationship. I think there's so many other I don't know, things that get in our way, but with kids it's like immediately I am in the best mood.
Yeah, and I know we have to go, but I dated someone who I was madly in love with, I was going to marry. He was going to adopt my kid. It was amazing. But he never wanted to take his shirt off. He was very self-conscious about his shirt. And I remember feeling like I just wanted that. I mean, we were crazy intimacy, crazy connection, but like I was needing that body to body, like there was like a barrier,
Right.
And so
I mean, it's a basic need.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is we don't pay attention to certain things after a certain age, but like when a baby is born,
Right.
that's, it's a basic need that they have. And so we, I don't think it stops, and we
Right.
should celebrate it. So
Yeah.
thank you so much to our guests today, Olive and Jean. Head over to the Cuddle
sounds like the
Sanctuary
cocktail.
if you want some more info.
Olive and Jean.
Yeah, Olive and Jean. Yes, so stay with us next time, and we'll have some more interesting, riveting guests.
Peace out and hug a friend.
Go hug a friend. Yes, good idea, Kim. Thank you for listening.
You are listening to Broadscast. For more from the Broads, head to broadscast.com.